All right, so now we got a slurp.
All right.
Really loud slurps.
Okay. What's the most you'd pay for a cup of coffee? $2, $5, $18? Mike Perry, owner of coffee roastery Klatch Coffee out of Southern California, thinks coffee snobs like me will shell out a cool $100 for a cup of the highest rated coffee in the world.
Oh my God!
And no, it is not the cat poop kind. It's called Elita Geisha Natural 1029. There are only 100 pounds of it in the world, and it sold for the highest ever price at auction for a record-setting $1,029 a pound, hence its name. But before we can fully appreciate Elita Geisha 1029 and wrap our heads around its astronomical price tag, we need to figure out how coffee got to be so expensive in the first place. Coffee's transformation from afterthought to $100 a cup happened in 3 waves. The first wave started back in the 1800s and was all about convenience. Think Folgers and Maxwell House. The second wave started in the late 1960s and centered on coffee as a source of enjoyment. It saw the rise of darker roasts and giant coffee brands like Peet's Coffee, Caribou Coffee, and of course Starbucks. The third wave was all about specialty coffee, putting variety, origin, and flavor notes front and center. Third wave coffee shops like Blue Bottle, Intelligentsia, and Stumptown serve lighter roasts which help bring out the unique flavor notes of each different type of coffee. But Perry says the Elita Geisha 1029's flavor profile is so extreme, it could be considered the beginning of a 4th wave of coffee.
God damn.
Now, Elita Geisha 1029 has a really interesting backstory. Geisha coffee beans originally come from Ethiopia and were actually planted in Panama as a way to combat a fungus that was ravaging coffee trees in the late 1990s.
When it would attack the tree, it would basically stop it from producing cherries. So the farmers were looking for ways to compound that or to offset it. And they heard there was this variety from Ethiopia that was at a research center in Costa Rica.
Coffee beans are the dried seeds inside of the fruit coffee growers call cherries. Geisha seeds were planted at several farms, but there was a problem. The disease-resistant trees only produced about half as many cherries as a normal coffee tree. And at the time, coffee growers in Panama were more focused on quantity over quality, so many of the farmers abandoned the Geisha variety altogether. But one grower named Daniel Peterson decided to stick with it. And when he tasted the coffee from the Geisha beans, he was so impressed, he entered it into the inaugural Best of Panama Coffee competition in 2003. Pitting it against some of the best growers from around the world. And he won. Geisha took first place that year and sold afterward at auction for $13 a pound, which Perry says was a world record at the time. That got the attention of other growers in Panama who started to produce and enter their own versions of the specialty coffee. A Geisha variety won the next year, and again, each time setting a new world record for the price of a pound of coffee. In 2006, the price of a pound of Geisha reached $130.
The computers froze. They never imagined they would get $100 a pound.
Fast forward to 2019, when the Elita Geisha Natural 1029 was not only the highest scoring coffee in the history of the competition, but it sold for a mind-blowing $1,029 a pound. In order to purchase the coffee at auction, Perry assembled a group of buyers from Europe and Asia who pooled their money and were able to secure all 100 pounds of the unroasted beans. For comparison, Starbucks says the company bought nearly 650 million pounds of coffee last year. There are only 1,600 cups of Elita Geisha Natural 1029 in the entire world. That's because coffee beans lose about 20% of their weight during the roasting process, so the 100 pounds is actually reduced to 80 once the beans are roasted, and each pound yields about 20 cups of coffee.
Here in the US, we got 10 pounds. So call it about 160 cups for everybody. And you were lucky enough to be one of them to enjoy.
But there's another major contributing factor to Elita Geisha's ridiculous price: the way it's processed. Most coffees are processed in one of 2 ways. Washed, which means the skin and pulp is removed from the cherry and the seeds are washed with water and left to dry. This process produces a clean, acidic, bright cup of coffee. The second way is called a natural process, where the cherries are picked from the tree, spread out in a single layer, and left to dry as is. This produces a fruity cup of coffee, think blueberries and cherries. But the intense flavor profile of this year's winning variety, grown by the Lamastus family estates in Boquete, Panama, comes from the unique way the beans are processed, which it borrowed from the wine industry called anaerobic slow dry. The cherries are actually fermented in a sealed 55-gallon drum that's filled with water and left for 5 days. The resulting gases escape through a hose, keeping the cherries in an airtight environment. Those cherries are then laid out in the shade and dried for 60 days. While washed and natural varieties of geisha have fared well in competitions, it's the anaerobic slow dry method that gives Elita Geisha Natural 1029 its otherworldly flavors.
Yeah. I've never smelled anything like that.
It's kind of candied, like a candied orange, a candied lifesaver. I think of the Jolly Rancher green watermelon.
Klatch sent me $100 worth of beans, which came to 18 grams. And I'm meeting up with pour-over champion T. Benjamin Fisher at Partners Coffee in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, to put it up against a couple of well-respected coffees to see if Elita Geisha 1029 is worth the money.
I think what Starbucks does such a good job at is making some coffees really, really approachable. So they're gonna taste really good with some cream, with some sugar. They're gonna have a lot of like those darker, like earthy tones, those chocolate notes, some of those more nutty flavors. Like you get some of these like delicate fruit notes, and it's not like crazy fruity, it's still pretty mellow.
I've had some crazy fruity coffee. Like I've had coffee to the point where you try it and you're like, oh, I can't believe that's real.
Yeah.
This does not hit that. All right, but like I'm ready to get into some crazy stuff. What's next?
This is like almost like the gateway drug, if you will, for like specialty, like higher grade specialties. Like Ethiopian coffees just like start to show you what coffee can be. Put your nose right in there.
I like how you're like,
yeah, just get it right in there. Or up close and personal. Like you're already gonna get like this orange marmalade.
wow, that is so much better.
It's like so juicy.
That is so good.
This is
Wow.
like the sweetness is candy. Like I just feel like I'm sucking on this like, I don't know, like a raspberry.
But I know enough to know that it gets better, or at least different.
Different, I would say different, because like this really is, we're looking at like the top end of specialty here.
Like you cannot believe, honestly, how fragrant this is. Dude, this smells like that other coffee tastes.
Like the entire room right now just smells like a bouquet. And
I
so
can't
this coffee-
believe this is a real thing. Oh my gosh. It's like a Jolly Rancher.
It's exactly like a Jolly Rancher. Like the green ones. Mm-hmm. It's like Kool-Aid. This is so clean. There's like rose florals, like jasmine too, like subtle citrus notes.
Like you're not spending $100 to drink a cup of coffee. You're spending $100 to like share the experience with somebody because you're never getting this again.
Perry says the name Klatch coffee came from the German term Kaffeeklatsch, which means to drink coffee over conversation. And I guess that's the point of Elita Geisha Natural 1029 and its $100 price tag. Now, I'm not sure I'd spend a Benjamin on a cup of coffee, but I will be talking about the experience of drinking Elita Geisha 1029 for a long, long time.